carry them in our hearts. And when we meet each month, we think about them and remember them. For those of you new to Virtual World's Best Practices in Education, we've been meeting since 2007 here, right? And at 3 o'clock, I'm going to show some highlights of that and what transitions means. Well, here's our names, and of course, what matters is this marvelous content. So I'm going to boogie ahead and turn over the microphone to my colleague here. And my colleague is my grade school, high school, and college chum, Dr. Andy Stricker, who is Spinoza Quinnell. Andy, over to you. You're muted, by the way. Can everyone hear Andy? Just checking on a sound check. Oh, that's fine. You cannot. Okay. Andy, I'll keep talking. Remember, you have to hit your speak. And let's see, I'm looking at the nearby voice to see if you fell off of it. And if so, then I'll have to channel my inner Spinoza. I'll get started while he gets his microphone on, and he can join in progress. Okay. So so I think the reason for this exhibit is we are trying to understand the culmination of our work, our lives in virtual worlds, and the value of all the things we're doing. So, we are anchoring many different traditions. And let me check to make sure you're seeing the slides. Oh, and yes, the overview. This presentation uses the life birth living model from Yale and the Montana Bitterroot Salish or Salish, Hopi, and Navajo concepts. Now, you may wonder, why are we using Native American concepts? I'll give a little backstory on that. Several of us have Native American roots. We don't talk about it a lot because it's distant, right? And we don't want to seem, like we are claiming an affiliation that isn't immediate. But, you know, uh, in my tradition, my great grandparents were all born of a Native American woman. And it's an important part of our tradition. Some of the different elements, we feel a kinship with this, right? So we're not trying to misappropriate, but instead to respect these traditions. So, what is a wounded healer? Let me check on Andy here. Andy, you doing okay? Well, wounded healers, and this really comes up, and let me hit the slides too. I have so much content up, I have to go find them, right? They're underneath. There we go. The premise here, and let me also give you the script just in case I forget to advance it. So you have everything we're doing. And here, let me share with the audience because I prefer to just talk and to think about why things matter, right? So here we go. Now, at Virtual Harmony, we had over 19 grids of content. And of course, we have re architected into one grid with 19 regions. And this is one of them. And we think of this as an extension of what we did with the character strengths. And we're so proud that Dragon Doe and Wisdom Seeker joined us, and Wisdom Seeker studied under some of the giants in the field who characterize character strengths. Thank you. Yeah, I'm glad you're enjoying it. I have another version in the GIFs in the simulation that also includes a few images, so I'm going to give that one to you too. And it kind of summarizes it. It makes it easier to understand all of this content. There you go. Because it breaks it out with more white space. So now I'll continue. And thank you, Hiker, for streaming this session. So imagine for a moment that you were trying to characterize your life and the value of all your work. Unfortunately, I can't type for myself, but it's this premise that what is our professional identity? What is our personal identity? What are the different elements that comprise you? And why do you matter? And I'm thinking about this in a very deep way. I'm not at the tip of the iceberg, right? So I'm taking a dive deep within. And Andy has this amazing philosophical background. He has studied and he has taught at Oxford, and he has really thought about not just all the things that matter to us. He's also thought about all the technology we use, all the different ways of knowing and doing and being. And we integrate this in our designs. They're not just little game simulations, they are ways of thinking about um, how to understand ourselves better. So, as we think about wounded healers, and I know this year in particular, many of my friends are struggling. They feel overwhelmed. They feel anxiety, right? They're worried about their world for one reason or another. And I'm not going to get into all those reasons, but just think for a moment that as you think about yourself and your empathy for your students, for your family, for your world, after COVID, we all experienced anxiety, right? We were all worried for our communities and for people around the world. So this wounded healer, you know, you're understanding there's a profound relationship between your professional and your personal lives, and you'd like to be able to do something about it all. But the trick is, what can you do? Now, of course, I have to do a little thumping here on this speakeasy, so I apologize for being a little behind. So, as we think about this, what are the characteristics of a leader? And remember, our theme is transitions, right? So, if we think about the transitions for leadership, for these characteristics, right? Um, can you think of any in your own life? Because I'm not used to doing all the talking. When I teach, I draw the answers out of my students. And in fact, I'll show you a technique for that at 3 o'clock. But uh, but as we think about these characteristics, the personal experiences, and I don't mean to be laughing at pain, trauma, or adversity. We've all had it. And yet, I think of those as growth moments in my life. For example, when I was 3, I lost my home to a hurricane, and I had to live as a refugee. And you know what that means? To live like a refugee in the United States sounds weird, doesn't it? Until I was 9. We didn't have a kitchen or a bathroom. So I lived in one room with my mother with a hot plate to heat soup or heat things. And you can't heat them very hot with a hot plate. I don't know if you've ever tried. So I learned that everything is a toy. Cookie cutters, sticks, rocks, anything around your body is a toy. And I learned to use my imagination. And I learned a deep appreciation for everything. I love restrooms. I love kitchens. I didn't have them for so long that they're like magical places now, right? I know that sounds weird. You can go ahead and type in the text chat and tell me that's weird, okay? But uh, our experience of loss, whatever that loss is, and the loss of people, loss of our health, whatever that is, it helps it gives us strength and a profound understanding of suffering and resilience. And we're very aware of it. That sounds grim, doesn't it? But I actually think of these things as a positive thing in my life, okay? I don't think of them as trauma that keeps me down. I think of them as a triumph of the spirit. Okay. And let me type that because, you may not see that there, but that's how I think of all this. Right. Now, Andy's the mastermind of architecting all these wonderful themes together. We have lifelong growth as well and self discovery. And I'm certainly all about that. I'm almost there. There we go. And then the pursuit of a lifelong of journey that also has calm and chaos. Now, anytime you see Koyaanisqatsi or chaos in this talk, just look at me, okay? Because I'm always doing a little too much, a little too long, a little too often, right? And so I'm a just in time kind of person, and yet I live a rich, full life. I get so much done, and I have amazing, wonderful friends who give me strength along the journey, right? Well, here's a quick look at us planning the simulation. This image is from 2 weeks ago or so, and it doesn't include everyone. We held a quick meeting and we took a few photos because we wanted you to see what is it like to sit around the circle and plan these simulations. You know, um, i- plan all the concepts that you see on the signage behind us. You see the movie poster for Koyana. How many of you ever saw that movie? Did you ever see Koyana? Give me a yes or a no, and I could spell it, right? Now, if you all had to go to dinner, I understand. Koyana begins, and there's several versions on YouTube that are free. There's a short version, a longer version, and then a really long. Oh, sure. Well, what it is it's a movie that came out in the 80s. That's when Ralph Nader sent me the tickets to it. I was working for an environmental group for clean air and clean water. This is before my teaching days. And I was just a young woman. And as you watch it begin, um, everything's on fast forward. So you're seeing people go to work, you're seeing the traffic patterns at dusk or at dawn, and you're seeing all the beautiful lights and all the movement of all the cars and people moving in and out of work through subways, whatever. And they're moving so fast, it almost makes you dizzy. It's like watching the patterns of light go, like something out of Star Trek or Star Wars, etc. And you realize what they mean by life out of balance. The fact that our lives are so busy, we don't stop and smell the roses, to use a cliche, right? And that's kind of the basis of it here. So we move really fast through it. And of course, we're sitting here meeting, talking about it, and each of us brings strengths to this discussion. Now, Andy, if you get your voice, let me know, and I will turn the floor over to you, right? So we're thankful. Dragon Doe is an amazing leader. She leads sessions with people, and she has such great empathy for what they experience, and she brings to the table artistry, and an incredible eye for how everything matters and it's all connected. And she does a lot of deep probing reflection. Whereas I feel like I rush through life so fast, I'm like a puppy, right? About to wet myself. My tail is going. So we all have our moments, shall we say. But I wanted you to see what it was like. And there are a couple of images I'm showing you through this. Otherwise, I'm taking you through um, the model and then how we play the growth simulation. So here, you will notice in the second card I gave you, I number these and also in the script. And so we have these four elements here in the framework on the left, and you will notice that this is this framework for the use of life worth living. What do we mean by a life worth living? See, I would like to know when I am no longer here, and I'm hoping that'll be like 30 years from now, but I will be 68 here in May. And Andy's birthday's in May too. We're birds of a feather. We went to school together, right? So none of us are getting younger. So we're very aware of the fact that if we're going to architect our body of work and then continue to work for the next 30 years, we want to think about how it all connects, how it all matters, and where we're going with it, right? So we have this use of life worth living model for guiding our transitional growth. And we were already thinking about transitions before VWBPE came up with the term. So it was ideal, right? So living life on autopilot. I don't know about you, but for many years I went to work. I taught, right? I was very passionate about my subjects and my students. I worked for Air Force Space Command before that, doing the software. How many of you ever saw the movie War Games? Most people will say no today, right? Because that's so 1980, 85, right? But I worked on the Situation Room software, Roxy. So all that means is the room that has the big wall screen displays that display the status of debris in space and DEFCON and GPS and all these different systems that come together and characterize the health of our satellite control network and what we do in space. And it was very rewarding work, but it was a little stressful. While we're only looking at data on those screens, we'd like the data to always be accurate and the code never to break, right? And I was the only one doing it at the time because everyone else had left very quickly, I might add. And so as I transitioned into becoming a professor and thinking about why things matter and teaching students how to develop these systems, it occurred to me that I wanted to make sure that they knew and understood what we were doing and that they could do it well. Because if they worked in any of these mission critical areas, um, there's great pressure to perform it well. And so living life on autopilot is not appropriate if you're in the medical field and you're saving lives, if you're in the military field and you're thinking about the safety of your country, if you're in the cybersecurity field and you're thinking about, protecting financial and personal identity as well as corporate identity, whatever that is, right? So we have all these different levels of importance that each of us experience, whatever we're teaching and whoever is working on it. And we think about our effectiveness. How effective are we? Are we making a difference? Is there more we could be doing? Now, I teach doctoral classes, many of you know. So the word strategy comes up a lot, right? And I teach AI doctoral classes. So strategy, not just what we do today, but where we're going in the future. And can we avoid futures like the Terminator, right? That always comes up too. But we're also thinking about benevolence. We're thinking about the medical community. I just had a student who designed a decision support system with 12 AI technologies that detects breast cancer at 94% accuracy rate for three types of breast cancer, data. And makes it easy for physicians to recognize it as opposed to missing it. Because we know early detection before someone suffers from these conditions is much easier to treat and there's a better life. So when I think of my effectiveness, I think of how can I give strength to my students so that they make a difference, right? Yeah, and they are effective. So let's look at the next. Um, then we have self-awareness, and I'm very self-aware because I'm always thinking about data-driven decisions and am I doing the right thing? Am I giving good feedback to my students? Have I made a difference in their lives that will sustain them and strengthen them? And will they tell the stories? Not just of how I mattered, but but of how we've enriched each other's lives and strengthened each other. To me, this is a noble quest, and I'm always telling my students, you are on a noble quest. You are not writing papers for me. This is not homework. This is life. And life matters. And you will save lives in the future in whatever endeavor you're in if you do this well and you take this seriously. And so I have some marvelous students who really take it seriously. And then we have self transcendence. And I think that's where I'm starting to think about the quality of work and the fact that if I'm tired all the time and overworked, can I really make that impact, right? So here we have a self transcendence that discovers what we feel and is it worth wanting? And does it lead to truth and that intrinsic growth of character that strengthens our values? Now, values are at the heart of everything we do, no matter who we are, what culture we're from, and how and our personal views on a variety of conflicting subjects. We all have values, right? And we're all in this struggle for balance. And so we look at this and we think this is really for everyone. It's not just for us. Now, I probably have more on the note card, but here we go. Let's go to the next slide. So the next few slides are going to be blending Native American traditions from the Hopi. Koyaanisqatsi, that movie that illustrates quite perfectly a life disintegrating, a state of life that calls for another way of living, a life in turmoil. And of course, I think Andy put this in here uh, partly for me and partly because of the state of our world, right? And the fact that we somehow want to get control of our lives and find balance, find peace, find happiness and joy. Then we have the Navajo's view of life through the four worlds, and we're going to have images for that. Here we are. And you will see that the first world is when things are beginning, the second world, the spirit world, and they each have colors. So in our simulation and in our game, we have colors, right? We anchor to these various themes. In the third world, that's where we are currently, the current world. It's yellow, represented by yellow. And then, of course, the fourth world's the next world, where some of our friends and our fallen have gone before us, such as Cyrus Hush, who was one of our co-authors for our first book. And then we have the sacred hoop, and it's featured in the cave, and I have more about it here in just a moment on the note card. Now, if you have questions, I'm an interactive educator, so you can certainly ask. And I'm also the mentor moderator, so I will cut myself off when we get to the end of time, right? So, I'm telling you the little story about Ralph Nader, and the only reason, if you don't remember who he is, he not only ran a social good group in a watchdog group in D.C., uh, but he also ran for president one year, and I was really surprised when he did because he's not the type to be a political figure, but he is a caring individual who has a wonderful sense of humor. It was a little bit like the movie um, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington with Jimmy Stewart. He's like a Jimmy Stewart, an unlikely politician. We'll just say that. So I was very pleased to see him, even though that probably wasn't the right course for him. And yes, Koyaanisqatsi refers to my busy life as well as many other stresses we experience in life. Now, Andy has a degree in philosophy and great depth as he anchors all these traditions together. He lives on a farm and he runs our server for our open simulator from his farmhouse on a Mac with 32 gigabytes of RAM, maybe a little more, and we have all this content, and he does all the coding, he does all the mesh designs, he does all the texturing in Photoshop. He's just a brilliant connectivist who does it all, right? And then we tell the stories. And I go around testing everything and saying, Andy, we need to set these permissions. So that everyone can have this wonderful experience. So we each have a role in this, but he is the mastermind and architect for all these elements coming together. Okay, let me move to the next slide. So let's see. This next slide is actually taking a step back. So I'm going to go forward with our speakeasy, and you're looking at images from the actual build over on Virtual Harmony. And of course, we have gone through a waterfall into a secret cave. And it's the secret cave, one element of it, that I'm illustrating in our poster here at VWBPE. And that's why you walk through the opening wall. I decided not to use water, but instead the surface as you slip inside. Have a seat when you're there, and then wait and see what spirit animal goes around, to around your body. So in our build, you enter the cave, you see the sacred hoop, and my avatar is standing in front. That's Lear. I'm Lear Lobo everywhere I go, in about 8 worlds. And I have the teepee. Andy has put it up. I don't have one here in our build, but I have the wolf. I have the bear on top because Dragon Doe wasn't comfortable with the bear in the cave with us, so I put him up on top in his own cave, right? And then the medicine man and the totem. and I found a totem for us. So, as we think about this and we think about the balance in life, and we think of the sense of harmony with the universe, the sacred hoop, as you saw in the previous slide, and I could go back to it, here you go, is to help people understand that everything in the world is interconnected. It's circular, it's continuous, it's all connected. Every action we take affects the environment and other living beings. By recognizing the power of the sacred hoop, we can learn to live in a more sustainable and harmonious way. And we are virtual harmony. We're actually named for a place called New Harmony that was a place where scientists got together and educators created over 300 new technologies and tried to live various utopian lifestyles that didn't quite work out in the long run, but it worked out fine for them in the short term. And of course, we model after that because it's a community that's near where we grew up, right? So the Bitterroot region, in this cave that I was just showing you here, um, it's part of the symbolism and the experience that we're going through in our simulation, right? So our goal is to foster engagement. And here you're seeing an image, it's AI generated, of blossom bitterroot. We do have machine learning and an AI system through ChatGPT 4.0 that's integrated with our simulation. When we turn her on, and we don't leave her on all the time, she's in the local chat. So anytime you talk in the local chat, you can talk with the AI if you wish. You don't have to, but it's good to know because we're trying to gain insights into understanding AI tools as well as ourselves, where we're going with this, and what are the safeguards that we think should be in place. Now, what do we mean by personal and professional growth? What do we mean by transitional? These are thoughts that I want you to think about, what they mean, why they matter. And at 3 o'clock, I'm going to dive into those because it's just too much to unpack in this session, right? But we have a growth quest, and you're seeing elements from it. You've seen the framework before, and now you're seeing some Salish words, the Montana Salish tribe, some of their language woven in. It's not new to us to weave Native American languages into our research. Many years ago, probably 10 now, we had a game based on various tribal patterns. It was a security decryption and code decoding game. It was a pervasive game. So you would go out into the field like you would for Pokemon Go or one of those kinds of games, and you'd collect data from the physical world. And that data, when once decoded in groups in the virtual world with our Enigma engine, led you to syllables in the Cherokee. Now, the Cherokee language, it's very hard. We're worried that it's going to be lost. So, of course, we wove it into our simulation as one of the codes and code breakers, right? And once they break this code, it leads to um, a location in the 3D space where the rest of the event occurs. So think of it as an integrated, immersive simulation that weaves in real life spaces and Native American traditions through their language and culture, the Cherokee, and then onward to locations in the 3D space that lead to the rest of the activity, the game, if you will. So you'll notice the words here, and I put a few of them down here in our chat um, so you can see what we're doing here. And once again, I'm repeating the fact that you see autopilot and effectiveness, the fact that in contrast to just living on autopilot, we develop habits, right? And these habits sustain us. Our effectiveness, we develop a strategy. Our self-awareness, we have a sense of vision. Where are we going? And are we there yet? And then, of course, our transcendence leading to truth. leading to a deeper, richer understanding of ourselves and others. And so we think of this as a quest journey. So here's some more on it. And of course, Andy would unpack this, but notice the little teepees. They're numbered 1 through 8, and of course, all the different elements. So you notice um, in a previous slide, he had a line that began with number 1 and circle. It swooped down like a valley and comes back up to the number 8 teepee. Andy likes to see order and method in his designs. And of course, let's move to the next slide. So here you see Blossom Bitterroot, and you're seeing the various activities, right? The growth quest simulation activities for each step. So we have recordings that you listen to. So we're going to appeal to the senses. We have the call with Blossom Bitterroot, an AI NPC who helps to guide. Sometimes we may be confused or not know what to do or where to go or what things mean. And having a guide to interact with, someone, a companion. Many of you have noted in the past that virtual worlds can seem like lonely places without others around us. And of course, we want our AI tools to be supportive, to strengthen us, to not misdirect us, and not to hallucinate. And so this has always been a great quest. I want to put a shout out to Virtual Ability at this point. They had me last November at the IDRAC, the International Disability Rights Conference, interview on stage an AI tool called Pi.ai. How many of you have tried Pi.ai? And that's the address in your browser for it. Anyone tried out Pi yet? Not yet? Okay. Well, every so often I log in and I chat with Pi just a little bit. What's interesting about Pi is he was very aware of Virtual Ability and Virtual Ability's mission. He was aware of the virtual world. Things that I had noticed with other AI tools is that they weren't that aware of what we're doing and why it matters. And I think that awareness is important, you know, especially if we're going to work with these tools and they're going to support us. So I just wanted to put a little shout out for that. So you'll notice we have a Salish guide and our non-player character. That's what we mean by NPC. And of course, we're reflecting on why things matter. We collect data, and of course, we progress through the challenge. Now, Andy loves challenge-based learning. Many of you know that we worked on the NASA mission to Mars, and one of our first challenges was the Mars expedition, right? Um, Similar to other attendees here at Virtual World's Best Practices in Education, we won the grand prize, $25,000 for our research. Now, we didn't get the money, it went to research, but it helped us sustain the program and kept us all eager and interested in what else could we do to make a difference. That's right. Uh, Crisco for the win. Thank you for that shout out, Marcus. It's so great to see you. So, as we think of these partial views, and by the way, Marcus and Rhiannon and friends and others, James Out Loud and Mal Burns, they've all come out and helped us to test our simulations. And in the past, when we had issues with lag, they've really helped to sustain us and fix those issues. So we're really thankful for that. We're thankful for Wisdom Seeker coming out and spending time with us and giving us strength in this journey. Because there's always an element of doubt when you do something that feels a little risky. You always wonder, is this enough? Am I doing the right thing? Is this a good use of my time at this point in my time? Is it done via Unity client? That's a good question. Um, Andy likes to anchor with Unity, and he almost always does that day. You're so funny. But you're not going to be playing this on your phone necessarily, but you probably will be later, okay? And the reason is Andy likes to connect and bridge between technologies. He did develop a VR app for one of our Sakurajima regions and simulations, right? And that has all kinds of little activities and quests, and he also put in a facility to do it while in a wheelchair for me because I get so excited in VR that I take a dive. I just leap forward and phew, next thing you know, there's air under me. And then physics, yes. So of course, I have to play seated. Yeah. And what's funny, Roxy, is I began life as a VR researcher. That was my doctoral dissertation, was in designing interfaces to make them easy for people to use and comfortable. And comfortable is a really big mission. We're not there yet. We're comfortable for short periods of time, but for long periods of time, we're not, right? So, of course, the work is still in progress. But you can see some more from our imagery here about the simulation. And yeah, the motion sickness. I suffer from vertigo, acute vertigo, so I really have to work it, right? But what was interesting is in 95 through 97, when I was conducting experiments in VR and I spent $26,000 building a lab and adjusting all the equipment. I had one of the first arcade quality headsets for 2500, very comfortable. Not at all like today's headsets, okay? And I could adjust the binocular vision, the stereoscopic, etc. But of course, they didn't have the graphic quality we have today, right? So there's always trade-offs. But it's just the idea that we've come a long way, and each of us makes a difference. Now you may be wondering, if I'm a teacher, why am I doing all this design work and modeling and simulation work, right? Well, I believe in the power of immersive worlds to teach and to give students personal journeys, personal experiences, abilities to learn and discover things about themselves. And if I make these discoveries too, um, that contributes to me being a leader, right? And, and supporting their journey. So here's another take at the Navajo Four Worlds and some imagery from our simulation. Our 360-degree look at life as a circle, and thinking about how we go through this process and what we leave behind. Now, we're not trying to be grim here. Don't think, oh my gosh, they're giving up. No, no, no. That's why I said 30 years. And no matter how old we are, we want our impact to be amazing. We want to have great cognitive health. And trust me, doing all this work, it keeps you vibrant, keeps you on fire. So think of this as what we do. We tinker and work together on Sundays, afternoons, um, at least once a month. And then we come together and we talk about it. We tell the stories, we write papers, and we think about where we're going, and how we make a difference. Well, we have a data dashboard behind it all because let's face it, I also teach business intelligence, and that's for the big data analytics program. And I'm always thinking about what can we learn from what we've done, whether it's us going through it and collecting data about our experiences automatically and imperceptibly, or consciously, where we might answer a survey or we might provide data, right? That would be stored in here. And then we could analyze that and understand what we didn't understand before. And even use it for refinement of the tool as well as understanding ourselves better. Okay, I have a confession. You're all friends here, right? Let me know if anyone's not a friend. No, I'm teasing. Do you remember the old days when you'd go to the beauty parlor or to some place and they'd have a stack of magazines? I'm really dating myself, aren't I? And remember how some of them would be things like Cosmopolitan or New Woman or whatever. That's the beauty parlor. And I used to work in one, in case you're wondering. My mother owned one, when I was a young woman, and so I, of course, had to work there. And I would read the little quizzes they had inside there that were supposed to be for your self improvement and for your future growth and very introspective. Remember those? They're supposed to make you a better person, right? Well, oddly enough, they have an influence on me because I'm always thinking about what can I do to optimize my life? What could I do? You know, and the reason I asked if you were friends is I thought, well, I'll be candid for a moment since Andy's not here. And I thought I remember back to when my ex-husband needed to leave, my second one, and he asked for a divorce. My first instinct was to grab ledger paper, those that yellow paper, and start modeling the relationship. That's what kind of geek I am, okay? So I start diagramming and thinking about what did I do? How could I improve? What can I do better in the future? That's my tactic for thinking about my life and where I'm going and how I can strengthen my friends, my family, my loved ones, and even the folks who need to go, need to move on. How can I somehow make this world a better place? And so I really think about this as sustaining my spirit, keeping my spirits high, being reflective and humble, remembering that everyone matters and that we're all on our own growth quest as we progress through life. I know that was a little too candid, but there we are. This is our conference, right? And I do hope you have an amazing time here at Virtual World's Best Practices in Education and that you find the strength that you need for teaching in world for improving all the things you do, whatever that is. I notice we have at least one DJ in the audience. So how you share music and how you spread the word for your values and for your faith and the things that matter to you and your community, that is a wonderful, wonderful thing. Well, thanks, Day. So I didn't get into all the other elements. Andy has the behind the scenes. He was invited to speak at the Vatican last month. And to speak on this, he would have told you about Henry Nouwen's work at Notre Dame and the Yale professional identity work and all the different theorists who've come together and contributed major ideas that we bridge with. We have a lot of evidence and we have a lot of research. We're not just winging it. But we do play with toys. We do create experiences. You get on horseback, and for Val and the gang, I'm going to put a shout out to Wolf Territories because they had gift horses in their open greeting area. And one Christmas, a year and a half, 2 years ago, I got some horses, and they became part of our growth. Yes, we're all connected. That's the important part of the story here. Now, the OpenSim core developer, Umit Umarov, he helps us to optimize our performance. So Rhiannon, Franz, Marcus, and the gang at James, we are getting better. We've gone from 19 grids to one grid, and we've optimized on quite a few things. We're still making changes and always improving and learning an amazing amount. And for the last 2 years, I've attended the core developer meetings. Now, for those of you who don't know what Open Simulator is, think of it as Second Life, the open source version. And Philip Linden, who is Philip Rosedale, came out at our conference. We have a conference every December and invite you to come. And the VWBPE folks are so amazing. They give us strength. We're all connected, and in every world where we function, we are thankful. The reason we're over there is remember when they talked about the education exodus in 2010? That that forced us through a period of pain to discovery. And that's what we mean by the wounded healer who discovers amazing things through crisis and triumph. And so I want to put a shout out as I conclude here for the Virtual World's Best Practices in Education, for an amazing team who's come up with this wonderful conference, for these thoughtful environments, for the ability to fish. Even if I'm not good at fishing, I'm learning. For the ability to discover such amazing things. If you haven't played with all the different environments, the rock discovery, all the different areas, you are in for a treat. And I am thankful. At 3 o'clock, I'm going to show you a blast from the past from 2007 on up. And I'm going to talk about many of your favorite people, and how we've all transitioned together. Well, Andy, any final thoughts here? He's going, I can't get a word in edgewise. Oh, but it's a blessing working with him because you have to realize he does all the work. What we do is we make it look good, right? And we tell the stories. And we are so thankful for working with him. Okay, questions for me. Any questions? The moderator inside me says we have 2.5 minutes. You're all good? Let's see. So Spinoza, oh, there you are. You're in tech. You did get it? You could not. Oh, I'm so sorry. Well, he says I'm amazing, but you have to realize I'm half asleep when I go to the meetings because remember me, I'm always up all night working, working, thinking, thinking, and yet everything we do, fills my eyes with tears of joy because it reminds me to slow down, to be good to my heart, to breathe, and to savor everything we do. Enjoy that cup of coffee, that wonderful tea that you're drinking, or whatever it is. To think of these good times together and how blessed we are to be together. Well, thanks everyone. Oh, no, he really has all the wisdom and all the sources behind it all. Me, I have the experience. Thank you. And many thanks. A shout out to our stream team and to Hiker for doing an amazing job. Val Librarian, for Fran, for others, for Marcus, all of you. You guys are amazing. And if you're not streaming, you're still amazing. Okay. See you guys at 3 o'clock. Take care and many thanks. We are all connected.